All-star closer Kenley Jansen, we have a question.
What's the best podcast of all time? Baseball isn't boring, baby.
I'm Rob Bradford, and every single day I'm sitting down with the biggest names to show you this great game is the greatest game. It's my podcast. It's my passion. It's a cause I started more than 2 years ago and is now the most prolific national daily baseball pod there is. Another fact. So jump aboard the BIB Express. Follow and listen to Baseball Isn't Boring, presented by Wasabi Hot Cloud Storage on the free Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts.
It's time to get in the zone. Time to get in the zone with the 49ers Web Zone. This is the No Huddle Podcast with Al and Brian.
49ers Web Zone No Huddle Podcast, part of the Odyssey Network. I'm Al. He is Brian. And we are kicking off the show with one of the most recognizable names on the 49ers beat. He covers the team for the Bay Area News Group. He's the author of the upcoming book, The Franchise, San Francisco 49ers, A Curated History of the Faithful, that will release September 24th. He is Cam Inman. Cam, thanks for stopping by. It's great to have you back on, man.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's actually, the book's retitled The Brandon Aiyuk Off-Season Negotiation. There's endless chapters to the book, so it's going to be fascinating.
Yeah, it's just all behind the scenes on Aiyuk now, right? Just pivot on a dime.
Honestly, I did cross paths with Brandon Aiyuk yesterday inside Levi's Stadium, so I don't have a salacious quote to share other than I'll put it this way, that he seems as anxious and flustered to get a deal done as he did like 2 days after the Super Bowl when he was clutching that football at his locker and just kind of, let's get going, let's get this over with already. So whichever way you want to understand where he wants to get it going is up to you on whatever day, whatever team. So
well, we're definitely going to get into that probably ad nauseum. But before we do, I did want to ask you about the book. Can you tell us what it's all about and how the idea came together for you?
Yeah, so let me see if it's over this shoulder here. It's got this a little gold jacket there, kind of like
nice.
It's like a gold jacket. It's a Hall of Fame book.
There you go.
So it's I worked on it all throughout last season, and which allowed me some room to write about last season because last season was pretty darn good, and they made it to the Super Bowl. And it was funny when we got back to the media hotel in Vegas. One of the writers from Boston looks at me, he's like, "Oh, there goes your book." I go, "No. Book's already good. Book's good to go," because what it is, this is going to be my 25th season covering the Niners.
Wow.
And so what this book allowed me to do is kind of share everything I've learned about the franchise and what I think 49er fans would want to know about them and maybe some new stuff that they don't know, because I kind of was able to go back in the vault and pull up some old one-on-one interviews with guys, whether it was Walsh or Montana, Young, Jerry. Actually, Jerry was one of the newer interviews. I interviewed Jerry last year for his chapter. And I tried to find something that made me curious and entertaining where I thought readers would, that's how I write too. If I'm writing about something boring, it's going to come across really boring when you read it. So like Jerry's, for instance, I'm like, I got him after he was running around on the field, getting all hyped up pregame. And I said, all right, your chapter, I want to focus on, obviously you have the touchdown record, name me the number one touchdown and explain it why. So I got Jerry in a good mood. So it was actually a good chapter. I think there's about 40, almost 49 chapters maybe in this book. So we cover the quarterbacks, we cover the legends like Eddie D, Ronnie Lott, Jerry Rice, Walsh, all this. And then we get to I think, how many coaches have I covered? Well, I think I wrote chapters on about 10 coaches, and there's anecdotes, some angle on each coach, which is unique. And then I get into their best draft picks, best free agents, best trades, their stadiums, and we cover all of it. But I guess kind of the cool thing also was I got Frank Gore and George Kittle to do separate forwards for me. And they're
awesome.
They're very heartfelt about what the franchise means to those guys. And to me, I've covered a lot of guys, and those two define the professionalism and the love of football and the love of the Niners, where I think it transcends, where if you love the Niners, you're going to love the book. You're going to love what they say.
That's awesome. I'm looking through the table of contents you sent me, and it's literally every chapter is. So you have chapters on 10 quarterbacks. Montana has a chapter, Young has a chapter, and so on. In the coaches, not only do you have Seifert and Mooch and Shanahan, you got a Tom Sula chapter in there. You got Chip Kelly chapter in there. So you're covering everything for the last 25 years of this book.
Yeah, I think the Dennis Erickson chapter has the only expletive in the book. So that's another one. It makes it PG-13. So.
I love it. There were a lot of expletives for me at that time frame too. So.
Man, 49 chapters in a book about the 49ers is some synergy right there, Cam. I love that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, if it's not 49, then we're going to create like maybe the acknowledgement page is an extra chapter, the sources page, the table of contents is a chapter. Yeah,
that's 49ers web zone page, right? We've been around for a while.
We go.
Pop
there
one
you go.
there.
Yeah, you guys get it. Yeah.
Well, we mentioned it at the top, and again, it's been the biggest news in 49er land pretty much all off season, but rumors are continuing to circulate about Brandon Aiyuk right now, and whether his days are numbered with the team. It certainly seemed like a trade was out of the question once the draft passed.
Right.
It no longer seems like maybe it's out of the question. What's your sense of where things are right now? And do you think a trade is a real possibility? And if so, what would be your expectation in terms of what the 49ers are getting back for Brandon Aiyuk?
I may be wrong in all this, but I just don't see him getting traded. I think this is the same situation as it was back in May after the draft. Like, what has changed? They haven't gotten a deal, so that hasn't changed. He wants to get paid. He has, from my understanding, he has an idea what his value is in the NFL. Okay. The Niners have their own version of what his value is to their team.
Correct.
And they don't match up, obviously, because the Niners have value across the board in a lot of spots. And to me, it's like, yes, deals get done at the deadline. Nick Bosa's got done in week 1, right? It's just like, wow, they're really pushing it that far. But it doesn't seem contentious. It's, we've seen some weird stuff with this team and their business negotiations. We've seen weird training camps. Jimmy Garoppolo 3 years ago on a side field. I mean, what the heck is going on, right? Well, they were doing business behind the scenes, right? And nobody was trading for Jimmy. He had to get healthy. And then that worked out in the Niners' favor and eventually in Jimmy's favor. So I don't think they're at a point of no return here. To me, it's like, yeah, this is part of negotiations, right? Like trade rumors start going. I'm sorry, like right now, it's like, what, is he going to Pittsburgh? Well, that was the March. Wasn't that March and April's trade rumor? And then he's going to Washington in July because of Jaden Daniels. And okay, now we're in August, and now it's going to be Cleveland because people were in Ohio for the Hall of Fame. Good job, Patrick Willis. But it's like, what are you going to get in return? That's there you go, 52, right? There you go. He had a good speech too. I thought it was dead on. By the way, it was kind of weird. Like, I'm going to go off track here for a minute, but
it's all good.
So anytime a Niner goes in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, I really think everybody on that franchise needs to stop and pay homage, watch what's going on in the speech. And so, I mean, obviously it's camp. You got practice going on. I'm watching the induction ceremony while practice is going on my phone because I wanted to see when Patrick's turn is coming up. The practice ends, and about 5-10 minutes later, we're in the auditorium. That's when Patrick's speech started. And I just kind of wish like the Niners had postponed the media stuff and had the whole team in the auditorium to watch one of football's all-time greats speak about what football means to him and everything. And I'm just hoping that at some point they showed that speech because obviously John Lynch understands the ramifications of it as a Hall of Famer. And when you're in Canton for a Hall of Fame ceremony, there's nothing like it. I mean, it's really, you grasp what an exclusive club it is. So anyhow, so good job to Patrick. And sorry for going off the rails there, but I just think, what is the ultimate deadline here with Brandon Aiyuk? And it's not going to be a preseason week 1 game, is it? I mean, you don't need him for this game.
Right.
Your roster is not going to get reshaped in week 1 or 2 or 3. To me, it's at the end of the month. And the fact that he is at the facility, going to some meetings, he is working out behind the scenes. He's not like, remember Debo had his hold in 2 years ago. Debo was running down the sidelines, right? Like showing the fans that he's around. And Aiyuk's there, but he's not working out in front of everybody. He's working out behind the scenes, smiling, engaging with Shanahan and Lynch. Looks authentic. And he doesn't seem disgruntled. So I just see something will work out. If he gets traded, fine. But it's like, how many times do we go over like make-believe trades and they never come to fruition? I think the only one, and I never bought into it, was that they were going to trade for Christian McCaffrey. Because I just said they don't value running backs like that. It would be freaking great if they did. They should have drafted him number 2 overall because he's perfect for this offense. They didn't. They come around and they get him. Worked out great. But so many times we just throw out names, right? Amari Cooper, that'll work. It's like, He's 30 years old. I mean, it's your 1-year rental. Like, how does that really help your team? Like, what are they going to give you? I mean, the Browns I mean, if I'm the Niners, I go, give me a defensive end because I want more defensive linemen so I don't have to trade for him in October, right? I mean, I've been watching training camp practice. The defensive line is deep at defensive tackle, defensive end. You got Bosa, great. Leonard Floyd, great. Yetur Gross-Matos, I like him a lot. He's going to be good. Robert Beal, who knows? After that, okay. You're telling me that's going to get you through 21 games, 20 games? They got to get more defensive end depth. But the Cleveland Browns aren't going to give you Myles Garrett. And who's their other one? Zadarius Smith, I think. He just went off with a knee injury today. So they're like in dire straits there. They may need to use whatever capital they have to go get a defensive end rather than another wide receiver. So it's like the NFL evolves throughout the preseason, and so do the Brandon Aiyuk negotiations.
Yeah, it's just I kind of feel like he's backed himself into a corner a little bit here because he puts the trade request in, and I don't think he wants to leave.
No, I don't think so either. I think he just wants to.
Yeah, he wants to get paid more, but the Niners are kind of saying, listen, like, we don't use you like in Amon-Ra St. Brown. You don't get that many targets. So, like, this is what you have. And this, I keep saying this has felt a little bit more like Buckner to me because with Bosa, Kittle, Warner, those guys are top ones.
I can see that. Yeah.
But so I do wonder.
Yeah.
As I say, I think too, I think ultimately he wants to be here, but I don't know, man. There's just so much smoke there for me right now that I just kind of wonder. I mean, you know better than I do, but you just kind of wonder which way this is going to go. What do you guys say? What do you guys talk when you talk to the beat writers? Like, what's the consensus? Do you guys think he's going to stay? You think he's going to go?
I think honestly, everybody at 49 thinks he's staying.
That's really interesting.
I'll say the person who's been most skeptical throughout the offseason is Brandon Aiyuk. And I had never seen a scene of locker cleanout day where a guy seemed that distraught with not knowing where he was going in his future. Like, wow. If they had told him back then that I'm freaking out, we're not keeping you, it would have been done. It would have been done in April. They wouldn't drag this on throughout the offseason, like going, hey, maybe we can strike a deal in camp. It doesn't behoove them to do that right now. If CeeDee Lamb, the best wide receiver out there, that like CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, they're still looking to get paid, right? So it's like every time there's these contracts, it's your measuring stick against the next guy. There's still 2 more to go before Ayuk's last man standing, right?
Yeah.
Again, so that's not the end all. And it's like the Cowboys aren't going to swap receivers with CeeDee Lamb and Aiyuk. That'd be incredible, right? Hey, they did Trey Lance a couple years ago. We're going to do this. we're a trading partner. Steve Young may hate it, but we're going to. No, I don't see that happening. And then if you're Brandon Aiyuk going, well, where do I go? Is it just going for the money? I've been to a Super Bowl. I've done this. I want to be the guy. Is New England going to be it? He knows Kendrick Bourne was in New England the last couple of years, so he can probably find out how in shambles that franchise seems to be. That probably can't be that appealing. The Browns can't be. The Browns look like they're always on the come, and it just never comes to fruition. I don't know what Deshaun Watson is really like, so that would give me hesitation. And then where else? Pittsburgh. Who's your quarterback? Russell Wilson. You want to team with Russ and Tomlin? Maybe, but they got nothing to send back to the Niners, and that's what it's all about. If the Niners do not have to do anything. But here's what I'll say, just kind of to exhaust this, is whatever happens, I think it will be fair on both sides. I don't think the Niners would make him play under a $14 million salary this year. They could force him to. I don't see Brandon Aiyuk holding out and not playing and showing up for the last 6 games of the season so he can become a vested guy. He could do something like that and really take this all the way. I think the guy loves football too much to sit that out. So I think right now everybody's throwing as much out there as they can to try to get something done. And I think ultimately he stays, he plays. Do they change that contract to sweeten it up and say, all right, we'll readdress it in a year. We're going to pay you 20-something million this year. We'll franchise you probably next year and trade you though. So we retain your rights. So, we're not going to give up that. And then we revisit it after the season. To me, that would kind of amend things. But again, I'm not them and I'm not Brandon Aiyuk. And a lot of people love to speculate about exactly what he wants and what the Niners want. We just don't know.
Hey, fantasy football owners. The road to winning your fantasy football championship starts now. I'm Matt Harmon from Reception Perception. Join me and James Coe as we take a deep dive into the position that's going to make or break your fantasy roster. Wide receivers. We analyze route running, target share, and all the metrics that matter, giving you the insights you need to draft the best wide receivers. As you prep for your draft, let us give you the coverage you need. Follow and listen to Reception Perception on the free Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts.
I mean, I know and you just said no one knows, but do you get the sense that the holdup is average annual value or guaranteed money, or do you think it's probably both?
It's probably both, because I think it's got to be financial, right? Because
Right.
obviously he likes it here, right? His
Yeah.
mom grew up a big Niner fan. They're like,
Right.
I think the family enjoys being here. But you're not going to give a hometown discount because of that. Not on your second contract, right? You do that on your third. So I think that's why it's financially driven more than I don't like it here. I need a fresh start. He doesn't need a fresh start. He got a fresh start in 2021 when he got out of that doghouse and became an NFL wide receiver.
Yeah.
And I mean, he is a top-notch wide receiver. He has had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. And only 2 other wide receivers in Niner history have had 3 years in a row of 1,000-yard seasons. So I'd expect him to be going for that this year.
Trent Williams is the other big name, and it seems like that's almost gone under the radar, which is insane. But when I heard he was holding out, I said, okay, this is kind of a Christian McCaffrey thing. He's going to get a pay raise this year. He'll get guaranteed money next year. And then you put a couple of dummy team option years on the contract and you're good to go. But now this is kind of lingering too. Are you surprised it's gone as far as it is? And do you see a resolution coming for Trent Williams?
I was surprised, I guess, initially that he didn't report. And then when you put some thought into it and say he has no guaranteed money and he's now with the number 6 paid tackle on an annual basis. Well, remember how hyper aware Trent was 3 years ago? And he said, you need to pay me an extra $10,000 a year.
23.01.
Bakhtiari. It was so cute. It was like,
23.01.
Yeah, you got to do that, right? So the dude knows like that. And he also does not need training camp. He's been in this system for like 15 freaking years. Why would he want to come and McCaffrey's a different beast. McCaffrey loves to work out, loves to be on that field. He needs to feel those hits, get those legs used to it, right? But he's not being used every day. It's load maintenance with him. Whereas Trent Williams, the guy's an athletic marvel. Get him in by the end of the month. Give him at least a week, 2 weeks, hopefully, to ramp up and get his football body going. And then off you go. And it's like, I don't think he's missing much. What I think it hurts is the offensive continuity right now, because things are shaky, where Brock is behind some guys, where it makes Brock, I don't want to say on the run as much, but it's just, there's not as much, he has command of the offense. It's just not being as efficient as you'd expect, maybe. Because
and the run game's been pretty.
You're not throwing
bad
to
too,
Devo.
right?
You're not throwing to Aiyuk. You're not throwing to McCaffrey some days. And you have a lot of different linemen in there. So.
And the run game has been kind of not great during camp as well, from reports that I see from others, that especially running to the left side, because Jalen Moore is a good pass protector, but even Furster said, Moore's issue is in the run game. That's where he needs to grow.
Yeah. The one thing I say about that is the running backs were really hard to gauge until you get the pads on, right? And so there's only been 6 practices in pads. Oh, actually 5. I think 5. And you're not allowed to do live tackling. So a lot of this is kind of speculation on, was that guy going to get through the hole? Yeah. What's going on? So preseason will give you a better estimation on how good a Cody Schrader is, whether Jordan Mason really has taken the steps that everybody wants to herald him as, he's ready to go now. Is Elijah Mitchell healthy and going to go into the season as the number 2 back? Those are the questions I think you can filter out through the preseason, because if I see Christian McCaffrey on that field, I'll go down from the press box and pull him out of the game.
Yeah. Speaking of, they play real football this week. It's if you're a 49ers fan, you get to see your team put on the red and gold and play another team, not just themselves. Obviously, without Aiyuk, there's been a lot of focus on the wide receiver group. Jacob Cowing's been out with an injury, but Ricky Pearsall was injured early, but has been in. How has he looked to you? And are there any other wide receivers that have stood out so far in camp? I
just love the daily reports people have on the wide receivers. Like, oh, this guy's terrible. Oh, this guy's great. This guy's terrible. And Brock Purdy's terrible. Brock Purdy, it's all very fluid. I will say that Pearsall's looked good. He's looked good. He looks like he's going to be ready to go as a rookie. he doesn't line up in the wrong spots. Like sometimes you'll see guys come in, oh, I didn't know that or something, and the quarterbacks will get pissed. A lot of guys speak highly of him, right? Whether it's coaches, quarterbacks, defensive backs. So you get the praise, but a lot of times when we ask these guys questions, it's like we're asking for letters of recommendation, and everybody's going to say how great they are because they're professional athletes and they're supposed to be great. Everything I see, he is going to be a bona fide player. He had a catch on the sideline a couple days ago, and D. Winters was all over him. And D. Winters was breaking up the pass, and Pearsall stayed focused on it, pulled it down one-handed, and then kept his feet in bounds. He's right on the sideline. It's phenomenal. And just that concentration and the contact was really good to see, because you don't get that in spring, where you're not allowed to hit guys. So that was huge. Debo practiced a lot, and he was going full tilt before he got the vet day yesterday. And they throw the ball to him a lot. He probably gets more incompletions per target than anybody on the team, because they're always trying to get some chemistry going. And Purdy and him have connected on a couple of deep shots, which seem to be rare. So that was good to see. Juan Jennings. He's a beast. Throw it up high. He'll outmuscle a guy for it. I would say the other, Trent Taylor, he's in a really interesting spot because he knows this offense really well. He's the number one punt returner, I think, without question right now, because he looks the most comfortable doing it. The other option is Ricky Pearsall, which I think Ricky could do it, but I don't know how confident that's going to be a baptism coming into the NFL and doing that right away. Flashback to Jared Hayne in 2015, right, where they tried to stick anybody in there as a punt returner. It's a really hard job. Trent Taylor's done it a lot, so you could trust him doing that, and you know what he's doing on the field. And he makes some incredible catches using all that little smaller body can do. Ronnie Bell's an interesting one because some days he'll look good, some days he'll look really bad, and I just don't know. I did a 53-man roster projection for tomorrow's online at mercurynews.com, and there's some guys where I'm like, do I keep Ronnie Bell, Chris Conley? What about Cowing? Because he hasn't practiced because he has this hamstring. But as a rookie, you got to be really show that you are really hurt or you're really not ready for the NFL to not make the opening day roster. And Cam Latu was not ready last year, and he got hurt, so he did not make the roster. Which puts, I think, Cowing, just judging from him running on the side, it looks like he's going to get ready to go. So I would imagine that next week in the joint practices down in Irvine, you're going to see a really good. He better be going, and then because you got to make the club by being out there, and so that'll be fun to watch. That's also the same thing with Isaac Guerrero, because he pulls his hamstring on day one.
Right.
Isaac Guerrero feels like a Cam Latu of this year.
Possibly, but here's the difference. The NFL this year has changed roster rules where you're allowed to have two guys go on IR and bring them off of it before you get to the 53-man cut. So essentially, you can have a 55-man roster and have two on IR, from what I understand of the rules. And so I think on my 53-man, that's how I snuck Guerrero through. Is if this hamstring's that bad, right? We're 2 weeks into camp, they're not going to rush him back just so they can see him if he makes the team. And then they're not going to need him right away if you've got, Mitchell and Mason backing up McCaffrey like you did in the past. And then if you're really in dire straits, you could go with Cody Schrader because he's really trying hard to make the team. He's a much smaller guy, but he runs hard. But you have your three main dogs back from last year. So I don't know why you'd have to make a change.
All right, Cam, we cannot wait for the book. We're going to promote the hell out of it. Thanks so much for the time, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, thanks guys.
Cam.
Appreciate you. Yeah. Enjoy the season.
Thank you. As well.
Thanks, Cam. All right, Bri. So I got to say this. I never thought, I've been covering the Niners. It's been a while. I think it's 10 years. And what I've done? Just rando websites. I've done USA Today. I've done CanBR. I've done content. I've done podcasts, whatever. And I feel like I've done a decent job. Feel like I've done a respectable job. I'm at a point in this where I was checking the page of someone named Pretty Ricky.
Yeah, Pretty Ricky.
Aiyuk news, and legitimately,
You're
what is this
online
random dude saying? That's what I'm like. Where am I? What has happened to me? But that's where my mind was. And actually, I checked it a little while ago, and he's still still
he's standing on business.
Standing by his report, which apparently he's been accurate in the past, this pretty Ricky guy, that Brandon Aiyuk is not only going to be traded, but traded to Pittsburgh. However, Cam, who's in the building, literally just said, pump the brakes. Maybe this isn't going to happen. I don't know. It's been a really stressful week for 49ers fans. I don't know where this is going to go. If it is Pittsburgh, if it does happen, like we said, I don't know who the hell they're sending back, because you could send a guard. I think it was James Daniels. People were sending me.
Yeah.
But that's not going to lessen the impact of Brandon Aiyuk, not even Brandon Aiyuk this year. If you trade away Brandon Aiyuk, you are worse in 2024. If you got an Amari Cooper back, okay, that's going to sort of offset it this season. But we've seen receivers hit a wall. That's this year, and I still would rather Brandon Aiyuk. If you're not getting a one back next year, it's like, again, what are you doing here? So I don't know. It's going to hurt them this year regardless if he goes anywhere, because there's even if you don't think Aiyuk is a top 10 receiver, what is he at worst? At worst, top 15?
Top 15,
you know what I mean? Like he's upper end in the league of wide receivers. You're not going to replace that. So it's just, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I just wish they would freaking get it done. They'd put us all out of our misery. Whichever way it goes.
Yeah, I would say, there are really three teams that have been consistently linked to Brandon Aiyuk during this official trade request, and it's been Pittsburgh, Cleveland, and New England. And of those three, if I were to rank them in what you could get in return, I would probably go Cleveland, Pittsburgh, and then New England at the bottom. And the reason being is because if I'm the 49ers and the Browns are calling, I'm wanting Amari Cooper in return. The problem with that is if the Browns trade Amari Cooper, it will be a post 6-1 trade, right? Because it's already past June 1st.
Right.
They have to pay Brandon Aiyuk. But if you trade Amari Cooper, you get a dead cap hit in 2025 of $22.5 million. I don't know how they would pay that dead cap hit plus Aiyuk, whatever it takes to get him to sign. But like I said, if I'm the 49ers and the Browns are calling, I want Cooper back, because while that is it's not a 1-for-1 type trade, because Cooper is 30 this year. But Amari Cooper's had, I think it's 7 1,000 yard seasons in the last 9 seasons. I believe he's had 7. So there's only been 2 seasons where he hasn't amassed 1,000 yards or more. He's a good receiver.
In his career.
Yeah, he's ultra productive. He's a good player. He has 1 more year left on his deal, but it's a void year. So again, I don't know what that looks like. I imagine the 49ers could convert that, but that cap hit for the again, whether it's with the Browns or the 49ers, would be $22.5 million. So again, there's financials there, but you are giving yourself flexibility. If it's the Pittsburgh Steelers, like you said, James Daniels has been a name. That's an interior offensive lineman. We know that's the weakness of that offensive line. Another name that I would, if I were John Lynch, I'd be trying to get would be Darnell Washington, their second-year tight end out of Georgia. The guy's like 6'8". I think he's like 275 pounds and would be just an excellent second tight end, which the 49ers haven't had in a long time. Excellent blocking tight end, which, again, you could use him to help Colton McKivitz on the right, things like that. And then if it's New England, what are you getting back? You're not getting anything back that's helping you this year. And even Pittsburgh, like Darnell Washington or James Daniels doesn't necessarily help this year. Helps a little bit, but it wouldn't offset like if you got Amari Cooper. So to me, it doesn't make any sense. And like Cam said, it doesn't seem like things are contentious. It doesn't seem like Brandon Aiyuk is like angry. It's just he wants to be paid what he knows he would be paid on the market. And like you said, the problem is that the 49ers don't value him. as much as the market would value him, just based on the offense that they run. And so I still think this ends up with Brandon Aiyuk on the team. Cam threw out an idea of just essentially adding to this 5th-year option and giving him a little bit more money, and then saying like, but we're going to franchise you to retain your rights and then trade you next year, or, continue to work on the contract, whatever. But I don't see Brandon Aiyuk playing somewhere else. I really don't.
So Mike Garafolo and Tom Pelissero must have just said this in the last 10 minutes. Brandon Aiyuk more likely to be traded than sign extension with the 49ers, no trade in place. That tells me that they're working on something. I don't know. The way that I just think it is, I think the Niners are like, listen, man, we want you here. This is the offer. Like, you figure it out what you want to do. And I think they're just waiting for him to, maybe have that come to Jesus moment to just say, all right, I want to be here. The offer's good enough, or maybe can we up it just a little bit? Not what I was asking for. But at some point, I think they're just waiting for him to kind of, okay, yeah, come to realization, this is a better spot for me. I don't know. Again, Cam knows a hell of a lot more than we do, except he's in the building. Mayoko's in the building. Barrels are in the building. Those guys are there every day. They know a hell of a lot more than we do. Just kind of reading the tea leaves, it seems hard for me to think, unless Aiyuk has to come to Jesus and say, yeah, I want to be here, it's fine. I don't think the Niners are going to up their offer here. I don't. And I feel like he didn't handle it well this offseason. He did a lot of, I guess I'll call it immature, a lot of kind of immature things, with screenshotting things and what he's putting on social media. And then I think the trade request was just, okay, I'm just trying to push all my chips in here and getting you, because I feel like you're not going to trade me. So I'm going to put in a request to try to push you guys to up your offer, and it's not working. So he's probably sitting there. You heard Cam say that he was distraught at the end of the season about the contract. He's probably feeling the same way, like they don't want me. Like, what the hell? So he probably doesn't know which way to go. And the options are, you go to Cleveland with Deshaun Watson, who has been horrible, and Cleveland is traditionally not a good franchise. You go to New England, who, I guess if you hit on Drake May in 2 years, maybe you're better. But right now you're one of the worst teams in the league.
Yep.
Or you go to the Steelers, who are the Steelers, but you're catching passes from the ghost of Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, who the league told you what they thought of him. Nobody wanted him. And he's not a good pocket passer. He's catching a lot of screens and things like that. And then maybe even a new quarterback next year there. So wherever you're going, yeah, you're going to get your money, man. But it's not like you're going to the Bills where you're going to catch 120 balls next year.
Right.
And be one of the best receivers. It's not like you're going to one of those teams. So what do you want? Do you want an extra, whatever it is, $15 million in guarantees and a few million a year, and you're going to go and just your career is going to go down the tubes, or do you want to stay here and win and still get paid handsomely and still be a big part of this offense? He has decisions to make, it sounds like.
Well, and that's exactly what Matt Mayoko said on KMBR earlier today. He said on the Tolbert and Copes show, he said, I think Brandon is having a difficult time figuring out exactly what he wants. I think he requested the trade without really wanting it to go through. He just wanted to increase the pressure on the 49ers. And I honestly, the 49ers don't leak. I get it. I understand that. But at the same time, when you hear things, it's because the 49ers leak them to the people that they want to leak them to, in order to, again, kind of get either ahead of things or put pressure on the player or whatever. And, I think for Brandon Aiyuk, it's just simply a matter of what do you want? Like, sure, you've got these other teams that are willing to pay you $30 million a year, maybe up your guarantees, but you're not going to win. And I do think that Brandon Aiyuk loves playing for the 49ers. I think he loves his teammates. I think he loves Kyle Shanahan. I think, I don't think he wants to leave. And so now to him, the decision is, again, like you said, are you going to leave because you ended up with, and when I say this, obviously $10 million, $15 million is a lot of money. Please don't think that I don't get that, right? Like, I would shit my pants for $10 to $15 million daily on camera for however long I needed to, if that's what you were going to pay me, right? But again, when we're talking in context, right, where it's like the 49ers are offering $27 million a year in average annual value and $55 million in guarantees, but, New England is offering 30 million a year with 65 or 70 million guaranteed. Again, is the trade-off worth it? And it sounds like that's what Brandon Aiyuk is trying to figure out. Is the trade-off worth it? Is the trade-off to go to a much lesser franchise worth this extra, whatever it is? Because again, we don't know. We don't know what their offer, what the current offer is. We don't know any of that. But obviously it's not to Ayuk's liking. And so, yeah. And when Matt Maiocco was the one that came out and said, it was either yesterday or the day before, a trade could be possible, that genuinely felt like the 49ers putting that out there, right? Because when Maiocco says things, it kind of feels like it's coming from the 49ers.
Yeah,
that's just kind of
Mayoco's
role. And I don't mean that in a negative way. He's plugged in and he's the guy that they use. And so it sounds like Mayoco's like, yeah, a trade's possible. The ball is in Brandon's court. Either he takes our deal or we make this trade, but he needs to decide because again, if a trade materializes, he has to sign an extension with that other team. So if they formalize a trade with the Browns are gonna be like, but this is contingent upon Brandon signing an extension. And if he doesn't, then the Browns aren't making that trade. Right. So, it really is, it sounds like now the ball really is in his court. Either take our offer or, sign an extension with this team that is willing to give us what we will accept in a trade for you.
And so much happening in real time right now. Garofalo just said that this is one of the most fluid situations he can recall recently. So things are happening as we speak. They're happening constantly. I'm sure there's conversations going on with Aiyuk and with these other teams. And again, if Brandon says at one point, all right, you know what? I want to stay. Like, let's just make it work. Things can flip around just like that. But like you said, Matt Maiocco is very, very, very tied into the 49ers. If you've been following the team for a while, everybody knows that. And he doesn't put things out unless there's a lot of credence to it. Right. So I think that, are these trade rumors? They can absolutely happen, but it can also flip around and not happen. It's just the fluidity of the situation right now. But we've seen so much things that it's done, and I don't know who a lot of these people are, other than Pretty Ricky, who obviously, right? You love Pretty Ricky. But all these other guys who are reporting this, I don't know who these people are. I've never heard of these people. A couple of them seem like they're Pittsburgh guys who seem legit, but then there's, look, if some dude with 3,000 Twitter followers is like, oh, breaking news, I heard from my source. I mean, odds are, man, and I'm not saying people don't have sources. There was a time when I had sources and I'm a nobody. So like a lot of people do know people who know people or whatever else, but this has been a little bit ridiculous with I think some of these things don't have a lot of credence to them. So we'll see where it goes. But man, every offseason, Brian, every offseason.
I will say that, I will say this though. If Brandon Aiyuk is traded, there also better be an hour later also a report that Trent Williams has signed his extension
100%,
because
100%.
there's zero reason for that not to be finished. If again, you're moving on from Brandon Aiyuk. So
I just hope Trent's taking a few weeks off. Yeah. That worries me more than anything else because you don't have Trent Williams. You got a lot of problems. So whatever you got to do for the next couple of weeks, let him relax or whatever he's doing. Then you need to get him in the build. Because if it's 2 weeks from now, I start to get worried. Mm-hmm. Right now, I'm still like, whatever, Trent Williams. They'll get him in. I still think it's something that they'll be able to figure out. But if we're pushing like it was like Nick Bosa territory or even just late August, I'm going to start to get worried. Because Trent knows his worth and Trent wants his money. But he's somebody you cannot mess around with.
And I'll also say this. If the 49ers play the Titans this week and the offensive line just takes a massive dump on the field, I think that Trent Williams extension gets signed pretty quickly as well, because this is the first real football. And for me, that's what I'm looking for. How does this offensive line hold up without Trent Williams at left tackle? Because obviously Trent won't be there. And then the rest of it, we asked Cam, like, what do the receivers and what does the offense look like without Brandon Aiyuk? What do the rookies look like? Those are the things that I'll be looking for. Yeah,
and they better not play Brock Purdy or do a lot of handoffs and quick throws if that's the case too. If they have issues with the offensive line, and Christian McCaffrey better not play and everything else. So
I'm looking for a lot of Tanner Mordecai.
Right? Seriously. Who, I would like to see him. I still think he's somebody who could push for a roster spot. But all right, man. So we're going to be, look, I'm sure like everybody else, we're going to be refreshing Twitter and texting people and seeing what the hell's going on over the next whatever. Hopefully this is situated. It seems like it's coming to a conclusion. We'll just see which way it goes. But listen, thanks everybody. We had a lot of people watching today. I know there's a lot of stuff going on, but I appreciate that. Please subscribe to our YouTube station. Please subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. Don't forget to hit that like button. Thanks, Papa J. Definitely for us. We appreciate you guys so much. We'll be back later in the week. It's a little fluid again, so we'll see what happens. I don't know when we're going to do the show because it depends on what happens with Aiyuk or whatever, but we'll be back at some point for the end of the week for our second show of the week. So,
and again, before we
guys.
leave,
Thank you.
I showed it earlier. Shout out to Homage. My Patrick Willis shirt showed up today. Shout out to Homage. If you wanna rep Patrick Willis in his Hall of Fame, make sure to go to Homage. We've got the link in the description. Also in my Twitter bio, we've got it linked there as well. Shout out to Homage. Thank you. And we will be back. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to rate, subscribe, review, all that good stuff. We'll see you later this week. Later.
9-3. 1, 2, 3.
.2400 Sports is an Odyssey company.